Welcome to this deep dive. Today, we're tackling a really critical topic.
Yeah, it's one that comes up constantly.
How to navigate resistance when you're trying to bring about change, especially, in healthcare settings.
Which are uniquely challenging environments for change, definitely.
We've looked at some great sources, insights from the QI playbook, views from places like Supremediq, even how accreditation bodies play a role.
Right, JCI and ABH, they set standards that often drive change.
So our mission today is to get past just saying resistance happens.
And really dig into the why. Why does it happen?
Exactly. And more importantly, give you some sort of concrete strategies to make change actually stick.
Because understanding this is vital, isn't it? Whether you're implementing new tech, a quality improvement initiative, or just trying to shift team habits.
You're almost certainly going to hit some resistance.
And knowing how to handle that, well, it saves time, frustration, everything. It's about fostering that buy-in.
So this should equip you with actionable ways to approach it, not just the what, but the why behind it all.
Let's start there then. The roots of resistance. Why does it actually happen?
Okay, yeah. The QI playbook had some really good points on this. They stressed it's usually not just stubbornness.
No, rarely is. It often comes from really valid concerns.
Like fear of the unknown. What's this actually going to mean for me?
Or loss of control, maybe loss of status. Will my expertise still matter?
That makes sense. And lack of trust in leadership can be a big one, too.
Oh, huge. Or negative past experiences, right? If the last change initiative crashed and burned.
You're going to be wary next time, naturally.
And then there's the practical stuff, worries about increased workload.
Yeah.
Or this feeling that the new way might actually be less efficient, at least at first.
And just not understanding the reason behind the change, if the why isn't clear.
It's almost impossible to get people truly invested, especially in healthcare.
Why, especially there?
Well, clinicians are laser focused on patient safety, as they absolutely should be. So any disruption, any change to routine, it's viewed through that lens first. Could this cause harm? Could it compromise care?
So it's less about being difficult and more about professional responsibility.
Exactly. Which means empathy, not judgment, is key when you encounter that pushback. Understand where it's coming from.
Okay. So it stems from these often quite legitimate concerns. The QI playbook also categorized resistance. How did they break it down?
They mentioned 3 main types, which is quite helpful for thinking about strategy.
Okay.
There's passive resistance. That might look like silence, people just disengaging or being really slow to adopt the new way.
Sort of dragging their feet without saying anything?
Pretty much. Then there's active resistance, which is much more obvious.
People speaking out?
Yeah. Vocal opposition, direct criticism, maybe even trying to actively block the change.
And the third type?
Cultural resistance. That's the this is how we've always done it mindset.
Ah, the classic. Deeply ingrained habits and norms.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And recognizing which type or maybe combination of types you're dealing with is really crucial for tailoring your response.
Because you wouldn't handle active blocking the same way you'd handle quiet disengagement.
Precisely. Different approaches are needed.
All right, so we understand the why a bit better and the different types it can take. Let's get practical. What strategies actually work to overcome this? The sources seem to have a lot of common ground here.
They really did. And a massive theme, maybe the biggest, was communication. Clear, consistent, compelling communication.
Explaining the why.
Absolutely. The QI playbook stressed this. Others did too. Use data, but also use stories. Show the benefits. Connect it to the bigger picture, organizational goals.
Make it resonate. And transparency seemed key too.
Crucial, especially again in healthcare. You can't leave room for ambiguity or fear about patient safety implications. Be open.
Linked to that, I suppose, is involvement, getting people in on it early.
Yes. Stakeholder involvement right from the start. Bring people into the planning, the decision-making.
So it doesn't feel like something just being done to them.
Exactly. It fosters ownership. Make them feel heard. Solicit their feedback genuinely. Hold open discussions.
Let them help shape it.
It makes a world of difference. And related to that, another tactic is finding your champions.
Influencers within the team.
Spot on. Identify those respected team members, the ones people listen to. If you can get them on board.
They can help sway others and reduce that skepticism.
Significantly.
Yeah.
It leverages existing trust.
Smart. What about momentum? I remember reading about quick wins.
Yes, demonstrating early successes, even small ones. It builds credibility.
Shows it's not just talk.
Right. It proves the change can actually work and deliver benefits. Celebrate those wins.
Okay, and what if the change involves new skills or tech? Oh, training must be vital.
Non-negotiable.
Yeah.
And not just a one-off session. It needs to be accessible, repetitive, if needed, safe.
Safe meaning?
Meaning people can practice, make mistakes, ask questions without feeling stupid or judged.
And ongoing support, too, presumably, not just train and abandon.
Absolutely. Have resources available, people they can go to when they hit snags.
It's not just the technical side, though, is it? Change is emotional.
It really is. People might feel anxious, overwhelmed, maybe even that their value is threatened.
So acknowledging that.
Yes. Acknowledge the emotional responses. Create space for dialogue about those feelings. Validate them. Don't just dismiss them.
And feedback loops, making it easy for people to report issues.
Vital. You need mechanisms for two-way communication. People need to be able to flag problems or suggest improvements without fear.
It shows you're listening and willing to adapt.
Which builds trust. And that's fundamental. Building trust, fostering good relationships, leading by example, it all underpins successful change.
Some sources also mention maybe not doing everything at once, gradual implementation.
Yeah, introducing changes incrementally can sometimes be much less disruptive. Gives people time to adjust.
And leading with influence, not just dictating.
Right. Inspire people with a vision, focus on consensus rather than just relying on your authority.
And maybe even thinking ahead, anticipating where resistance might come from.
Definitely. Proactive planning. Identify potential roadblocks early and figure out how you might address them before they become major issues.
You know, hearing these strategies is great, but seeing them in action really drives it home. The QI playbook had that hospital example, right? With the new medication tool.
Yes, that was a perfect illustration. You had nurses, quite understandably, resisting this new digital medication administration tool.
What were their main issues?
Workflow disruption was a big one, problems with the actual interface, feeling like the training was rushed and inadequate. Pretty typical stuff with new tech rollouts.
Okay, so what did the team do? Just push harder?
No, and that's the key. They paused the rollout.
Really? They stopped it?
Temporarily, yes.
Yeah.
They went back and actively gathered feedback from the nurses on the front line. They listened.
And then?
They actually made changes to the interface based on that feedback.
Oh.
They improved it.
Okay, that shows they were serious about listening.
Exactly. And then they assigned some experienced nurses as super users to provide peer-to-peer support during the renewed rollout.
Ah, so using those internal champions we talked about.
Precisely. And the result? Within 3 weeks, adoption rates shot up. Acceptance increased dramatically.
Wow. So pausing, listening, adjusting, and supporting actually worked much better than just forcing it through.
It's a classic example. It shows resistance isn't just noise. It's often valuable data that can help you refine the change itself and make it more successful.
That's a powerful lesson. Now, for people who like a bit more structure, there are established change management frameworks. Our sources mentioned a few.
Yes, they did. The ADKA model came up.
Right. Awareness, desire, knowledge.
Ability, and reinforcement. It's useful because it focuses on the individual's journey through the change process, making sure each of those elements is addressed for each person.
And Cotter's model.
Cotter's 8-step model. That one really emphasizes creating urgency at the beginning and building momentum through short-term wins, more of an organizational focus.
And there was one more, Lewin.
Lewin's change management model. Unfreeze, change, refreeze.
Sounds simple.
It's conceptually simple but powerful. Prepare for the change, make the change, then solidify the change so it becomes the new normal. Useful for thinking in stages.
So these models offer different lenses, different approaches.
Exactly. And the key point made was that using a structured model like one of these, alongside your data-driven improvement efforts, really boosts your chances of making the change stick.
It provides a roadmap, essentially.
A framework to guide your actions.
Okay, shifting focus just a bit towards the end here. We touched on external organizations, JCI, NABH.
Right.
How do they fit into this picture of change?
Well, these accreditation bodies set standards, often very high standards, for quality and patient safety.
So hospitals have to change to meet those standards?
Often, yes. Achieving or maintaining accreditation can be a major driver for implementing specific changes in processes, policies, even culture.
Is it just seen as a hoop to jump through?
Sometimes, maybe. But there was an interesting comment about JCI accreditation actually acting as a team-building exercise.
Right, improving communication across departments because everyone has to work together towards that common goal.
Exactly. So it can have positive side effects beyond just compliance.
And then there are consultancies, like Supremediq mentioned in the sources.
Yes, firms like that offer specialized help for healthcare organizations navigate these complex changes, manage quality improvement projects, or prepare for accreditation,
It acknowledges that sometimes you need that outside expertise.
especially in such a complex field.
Yeah.
And then you have global bodies like ISQOT, the International Society for Quality in Healthcare.
What's their role?
They focus on promoting quality improvement internationally, sharing best practices.
Right.
It reminds us that these challenges of change in quality are global issues in healthcare.
Okay. So, as we wrap up this deep dive, let's synthesize. What are the absolute key takeaways for you when it comes to overcoming resistance in healthcare?
I think number one is recognizing that resistance, especially here, usually comes from a valid place, often linked to patient safety concerns. It's not just people being difficult.
So start with empathy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And second, proactive, clear communication is everything. Explain the why relentlessly.
Good.
Genuine involvement.
Yeah.
Bring people along on the journey. Don't just impose the change. Give them a voice. Give them ownership.
And provide real support.
Comprehensive support training, emotional acknowledgement, feedback channels, and maybe the overarching point is view resistance not as failure, but as feedback.
Use it to make the change better.
Exactly. It can be incredibly valuable data if you listen properly.
That's a great summary. All right, a final thought then for you, our listener, to ponder.
Okay.
Given everything we've discussed, especially the high stakes in healthcare, how might the strategies need to differ or perhaps be intensified when a change directly impacts patient care versus one that's more administrative?
Ooh, that's a good one.
What extra layers of communication, involvement, maybe even validation might be absolutely essential in those really critical patient-facing situations? Something to think about.
Definitely food for thought.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.